Monday morning with Bruce Wolf and Dan Proft. How many presidents does it take to insult the Polish people?
And election eve, we preview the all-important Wisconsin recall election.
It's Monday morning. Bruce Wolf, Dan Proft, 89 WLS.
.534. It's a Saturday morning. A little bit of the Stones. Charlie Watt's birthday today. Did you know that? I know. It's a Saturday morning. A lot of stuff to do this weekend. Yeah, overnight, like the other day, it seemed like all the flowers came out. All the lilies all of a sudden bloomed. Walked out and there they were. The tomatoes on the vine were the size of 12-inch softballs. Overnight. And the birds were singing. Birds in my yard start singing at 4 a.m. The birds get up early where we live. Yes, it's an early bird, and they're looking for worms, but the worms sleep in, so the birds are wasting their time. Joey and Joliet, good morning, sir. Welcome to 89 WLS.
Good morning. Talking about the president's security team, I just downloaded and saw the pictures of that escort from Colombia, and I understand that the Secret Service guy was like 50 years old. They should give him an award. He's got to be in better shape than SEAL Team 6.
She was a looker, wasn't she?
Wow. My computer melted.
You want to hear a funny story?
Yes, Jake.
You'll be the judge if it's funny or not. A couple weeks ago, during the NATO summit, Karzai was staying at the Four Seasons Hotel. Also staying that night, you know the comedian Kathy Griffin?
Oh, yeah.
She appeared Saturday night at a casino in Indiana, and she had an appearance on Sunday here in the Chicago area. So she was staying at the Four Seasons. She got in like really late. And she has a trademark shirt she wears. It's called Tired Hooker. So she was wearing that. As she gets into the elevator, she has no idea Karzai's staying there. She gets into an elevator with all these Secret Service guys with this Tired Hooker shirt on. And then asked them if they were going down. And there was no humor there, apparently. It was too soon after Columbia.
She's a big Obama supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she didn't realize they had metal detectors and everything to get into the hotel. And she didn't know what was going on.
Tired hookers. Say hi to my money.
All right, take care, Jake.
Good morning, Jake.
Bye, Joey. Peggy in Chicago. Good morning, Peggy.
Good morning, Jake. I wanted to tell you that joke in Wisconsin, because, all the people that went up there to protest were from Illinois and Ohio. Those were not Wisconsin teachers that were protesting Walker, because the union, when it loses its money, loses its political clout. They're taking that money now. Those union people are individual now. They put their money where they want to. Plus, the schools are getting the equipment they need now. They're in good shape. And, no wonder Walker's so popular. And, of course, the joke was, this kid gets up in school and he doesn't want to learn, and he's really making a lot of noise and everything, and, he's really disrupting the whole class. And the teacher says, listen, if you don't want to learn, you can leave and go to Illinois. And it's true. We take all their flunkies. And, Illinois doesn't want them. I mean, where are they going to come to? Chicago, of course. And the Chicago teachers are going to have to deal with them. And, we don't need any more gangbangers. We don't need any more of those. We have plenty.
Yeah, but wait a minute. They just can't kick the whole family out of Wisconsin.
Oh, they can make it. They can kick them out of school. Sure they can. And they're going to come over here. But the thing is, the union, as long as it takes their dues and controls their dues, and the teachers don't have control, they can take that money and use it to, give it to political candidates. But once they lose that control, and once the state doesn't collect that money for the union, The teachers retain control, and they're scared to death. They're actually scared to death. It's happened now, and the schools are getting better. If Illinois gets wind of that, those teachers get wind of that, they're going to say, hey, we want control of that money.
I don't know. I think our kids in Chicago would be a lot smarter if the teachers in Chicago got that 30% pay raise that supposedly they're asking for.
What about school choice, Jake? What do you think about that?
Sure, I believe in that, but the president doesn't.
Well, he doesn't believe in a lot of things.
No, he doesn't. Thank you, Peggy.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole voucher thing, I still don't understand that. If you look at the Washington, D.C. school system, where they had the pilot program, and I think the system spends, $15,000 a kid. Some of the worst schools around. That's what they spend. And the voucher program, I think, was $7,500. It was half of what they spent. So it was like a win-win for the school system, because for each kid who took the $7,500 and went elsewhere to a private school, the school system had $7,500 left over. They didn't have to spend on this kid. And these kids who were going to the private systems with their voucher, they were doing well, graduating, going to college. And somehow that became a bad thing. I don't understand it. I talked to a congressman from Chicago. I'm not going to mention his name. Don't want to embarrass him. I asked him about that. I said, how could you be against that? And he said, everybody should have the same opportunity. And if all can't have it, then none should have it. That was a hell of an attitude. It really is. I feel bad for those kids. And then somebody wants to help them, and it's too political. Can't help those kids. We're just going to let them. We're not going to save anybody. Imagine the Titanic, where they didn't have enough lifeboats for everybody. So rather than save who they saved, they just said, you know what? We don't have enough for everybody, so you're all going to die. That's basically what they're doing in D.C. Yeah, we don't have enough money for everybody, and we can't teach teach the kids as well as these other schools are. So therefore, what all the kids suffer. Maybe the 10% that could get out of there and become something. Imagine you could have a kid in that school in D.C. who may one day be able to discover the cure for cancer. And if you're going to keep him in the school system the way it is now, he may never get that chance, or she may never get that chance. It just doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem right. Mark in the car. Good morning, sir. You're on 89 WLS.
Good morning, Jake.
What can I do for you?
Hey, I wanted to come back to the issue of polls and Obama. The deal is this, and a lot of people don't realize that the World War II started September 1st, 1939, not with Pearl Harbor. And so when the so-called Nazis, Germans, attacked Poland, they occupied half the country and set up these death camps for Poles, Jews, anybody. So for a president to come out and say that these were Polish camps is absolutely unacceptable because the misery and the destruction of the war brought upon Poland was so dire that it really hurts Poles. So people need to understand that.
It does. I mean, and the Polish person, the resistance fighter who was getting the medal, for all he did, he was the eyes and ears of the world to go in and report what was happening in Poland and get out of there and say, here's what's happening, that the Germans were just killing people.
Exactly. And the second comment I wanted to make about the schools. Now, you mentioned $7,500 per kid over in D.C. Well, the problem is this. The school district and administrators, if they're saving $7,500 for not spending $1,500, guess what? It doesn't go to taxpayers. It goes into their own pocket. So for a superintendent, instead of making, say, I don't know, $200,000, $300,000, they want to make $1.5 million. That money is never going to see taxpayers' pockets again.
Well, you know what? Even if it doesn't see the taxpayers' pockets, at least some of it goes to these kids, and the kids could have a good life and get a good education and have a good life. I mean, at least it's something. It's better than all of it just being wasted.
You know, I seriously doubt it. And when you look at the quality of education, at the primary education and elementary education, and compare that to the rest of the world, guess what? It's way, way, way down. And it's unacceptable in the Western society.
Yeah, it's not getting any better.
We're going down.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Robert in Aurora, good morning, sir. Welcome to 89 WOS.
Good morning. I was just making a comment that in Washington, D.C. and New York City, they have a couple of these programs, private money and public money, where they've taken the neighborhoods and the schools that are there, and they've made them 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where even on the weekends, the students have an option of going back home to the parents, or they could stay there for the weekend, whatever. But the point is, I was just wondering, with those two cities, are there any results on these boarding school type of programs that they have? And how come Chicago doesn't have one? Because Chicago has one of the worst school districts in the state, too. I mean, the country, I should say.
Chicago has good and bad. I mean, there are some schools in Chicago that are some of the best in the nation that, parents are fighting to get their kids into.
Right. Are those public schools or private schools?
Public schools.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some public schools in Chicago that are very, very good.
Okay.
But not enough of them.
Right. And the reason why those schools are really, really good is because those students' parents are fighting to get them into those schools. And that's the whole concept, I think, with Washington and New York, is that there's not enough parents that are doing that. And so you remove the parental element and the community element, you get these kids into these 24-hour schools where it's a lot more safe, and there's a lot more after-school, help with those teachers extending their days and that kind of thing. I was just wondering, Yeah,
I mean, if you have a large percentage of kids who want to be in a school to learn and are interested in learning, it makes it a lot easier to learn than being in schools where there are a lot of kids who don't want to learn.
Well, that comes from the parents, though, too. Yeah. See, the parents and the good school districts. The reason why those school districts are so much better is because the parents and the community is a lot more willing to abide by the rules of the schools and make sure that the schools are functioning properly with discipline, and that discipline usually comes from the home.
All right, thank you, Robert.
Yep, no problem.
But part of the other problem is a lot of the kids have one-parent homes. Not a big strong family influence in some of the homes. There was a story last week, I think it was down in Houston, where there was a young girl, honor student, I think of a one-parent family. She was working 2 jobs to support her brothers and sisters. And because she had 2 or 3 jobs and she was so tired that some days she wouldn't go to school, well, you miss so many days of school, even though she was an honor student, you're called a truant. So they took her to court. Judge said, hey, you got to, and she missed school again, and the judge threw her in jail for 24 hours. Now, this hits the news. People love the story because here's this girl working hard. People start giving money. You know how much money they have given to this girl? $100,000. And you know what this girl said? She doesn't want the money because she said there's other people that are worse off than she is. See, that's a kid. That's a kid you want to save. 5:48, back after this on 89 WLS.